Why in India did you choose to start something like this?
There are no services that actually cater to supporting somebody's, emotional and relational and physical intimacies.
But what I like, when I read about this, it's self-discovery through intimacy.
Then I have couples who have stopped having sex.
What, according to you, is intimacy?
When we are intimate with someone, we start thinking, we start worrying about things.
So it's a planned spontaneity.
The more you spend with a partner, the more
it gets monotonous.
I think living together is the biggest problem. So you don't see them as a sexual creature anymore.
Marriage changes something, okay?
Schedule intimacy, schedule sex.
We're talking about people who are exploring relationships outside a dyadic arrangement.
Women have affairs. There are not even affairs, they are online.
Hi. In so many years of my experience as a couple therapist and psychologist, I meet a lot of couples and individuals who are pretty much living a dual life, which basically means that secretly they desire something, but in reality they are not able to practice. And a lot of couples come and tell me that, it's not the same anymore. I just don't feel the same way about my partner anymore. What they're really struggling with is intimacy. So in today's episode, we have gone through a lot of different topics around intimacy, sexuality, sexual orientation, gender identity, and BDSM Kinks. And this has been done with nobody else than Aili Seghetti. She is the founder of the Intimacy Curator. She's a relationship reinvention specialist, a breathwork facilitator in somatic breathwork and neuro-dynamic breathwork. She also does matchmaking, which involves families. And she also helps people who are very shy to go on dates to overcome their dating shyness. So Aili,
Yeah.
you're a relationship reinvention specialist
Yes.
and the founder of the Intimacy Curator.
Yes.
What an interesting name. So what does Intimacy Curator do? What do you do?
Okay, so Intimacy Curator is a business. Mostly what I do is coaching. So intimacy, dating, sex, relationship coaching. And then we help other people when they are in groups. So we organize workshops and then we organize events or experiences. So where people can meet each other, where they can learn some skills, understand a little bit better what they're into with respect to intimacy, emotional and physical intimacy. So the purpose of this company is sort of self-awareness, self-discovery.
Yeah, but what's interesting is a lot of therapists or psychologists talk more about self-love and how individually you need to achieve that alone. It's a lonely journey pretty much, which you do with the help of different healers. But what I like, when I read about this, it's self-discovery through intimacy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So tell me one thing, why in India did you choose to start something like this? It must have been very challenging.
I come from a marketing background, so I used to work for brand consultancies. And a lot of the clients that I had were dating apps. So I ended up talking to a lot of people about dating, sex, love across the country. So smaller towns like Indore, Lucknow, two bigger cities like Chennai, Delhi, etc. And what I figured was that there is a lot of there are apps. People are on the apps. Right now, today, there are toys, like sex toys, for example. But there are no services that actually cater to supporting somebody's, emotional and relational and physical intimacy. So the services was something missing. I figured out when I was working with the apps that nobody is supporting these people who are on the apps. They're maybe looking for love. Maybe they're just looking for a one-night stand. How to like achieve what is it that they want
They
to,
desire.
yeah, they desire. So that's how I sort of thought about this, and I started this kind
Wonderful. And you're right, because a lot of people for these issues, they go to couple therapists, right? But there is a framework, a very clear, defined framework that we have to work within. So there's no freedom to move around that framework and to actually help couples really feel, that deep connection. Because intimacy in Hindi is atmiyata.
It's a very long
Yeah,
word.
which means soul connection. It's so
What
interesting.
about sharirik sambandh?
That's sex. I think intercourse. No, sex, physical intimacy.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
closeness with the bodies, right?
yeah.
So that's also intimacy.
That is also intimacy. So there are intimacy has, of course, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual aspects, right? And I read that you do something called as somatica breathwork
Yes.
and neuro
Neurodynamic.
breathwork.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that involve?
So somatica is a method. It comes from LA. It's a method that uses your body like to understand yourself. So you use breathing exercises and you use visualizations. The breathing exercises are very simple. They've been sort of tested across hundreds of years, and they help people being in touch with their bodies. So what happens when we are intimate with someone, we start thinking, we start worrying about things. How is my body looking? Am I performing well? Am I attractive? We start questioning ourselves, or we start wondering if the other person is into us. So there's a lot of chatter in the head. So these exercises help people to be in their bodies when they are intimate with
And truly experience.
and experience
Be
the
in the
present
experience.
moment, right? That's what you need to do when you are engaging your body. Like if you are working out and you're thinking about what you're going to cook later on, you're not actually enjoying that experience, right? So it's the same thing. Like, and obviously for men, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation happens because they're
They're
not
thinking
there.
too much. Yeah.
Us women, we can fake it, right? So like nobody knows when we are not there unless we go and tell.
Right.
So we go through this like process of performance
Right.
for various reasons, but nobody knows that we are actually not there with our hair.
Correct.
These breathing exercises and visualizations help us to be more embodied.
So the couples or individuals who come for these sessions, the breath work, right? Do they have to, so do they come as couples or do they come individually or both are fine?
Both come. So
And they then practice at home or wherever.
yeah. Usually
can
the
be-
somatica kind of breath work or exercises, they happen, you should do them like at least 3 times a week. Now the neurodynamic breath work is very different. It's a healing method.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of holotropic breath work.
Holotropic breath.
Yeah, so it's a branch of that. Holotropic takes multiple hours. This one is 1 or 2 hours of heavy breathing in and out through your mouth, and it allows you to go into sort of alternate space of consciousness. So that's a healing process. You cry, you laugh, and this is done individually. You can do it in a group.
Right.
Very different
Right.
methodologies here.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people come to you, they are most of the couples or individuals are either facing issues with intimacy in their relationship, or what are the issues that people come to you with?
So there is physical and emotional issues. I have a lot of clients who struggle with dating. Okay, so from the basic, oh, I'm not getting any matches, to maybe, oh, once I match, I don't know what to say, or I get ghosted, or even if I'm chatting with someone, then I never get to meet them. So various dating issues, like, oh, I fall in love all the time, or I don't manage to connect. So either or kind of things.
Very, very common. Mostly men or women?
Mostly my clients are men. Mostly men, yeah.
So men are complaining about being ghosted
Yes.
more than women.
I think I get a very specific target of people. I think women are much better at sort of dealing with a lot of emotional stuff, because we are conditioned to do that. Men are struggling, and obviously queer individuals are,
Of course.
as well, for other reasons. So
Right.
yeah. So the dating clients, then I have people who struggle with physical issues like vaginismus, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation. Then I have couples who have stopped having sex, or then I have couples who like are fighting all the time. And then I have those who want to sort of enhance their experiences.
Right.
So they've reached a point where it's like, this is what we do. What else can we do?
And at what point would they come to you? The ones who want to enhance their experience.
They can, it could be someone who's been together for a year, or someone who's been together for 5 years or 10 years. It really depends. But there is no struggle as such. There's no problem. It's just like, okay, what else is there?
To make this better
Yeah,
than what it already
to make
is.
it more exciting, because as you know, like, the more you spend with a partner, the more
It gets
things,
monotonous.
yeah, it's monotonous. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, because we will be talking more about intimacy and what according to you is intimacy?
I think it's a very personal thing, so I will just share like what
Your
it is
views,
for me.
yeah, like
I think is being able to be vulnerable with whatever feeling you have. So it it really, it sits on what is it that you want to feel. Now I could find intimacy when I want to feel powerful, right? So we always think it's love
right,
or romance,
right,
but actually I could feel intimate with you if this relationship or this engagement makes me feel powerful. Maybe I want to feel adventurous and free and naughty,
right,
so when I hit that feeling with you and you manage to hit your feeling with me,
right.
that's when you have intimacy. You've connected around some sort of feeling, some sort of vulnerability, because I am able to also tell you that this is what I want to feel.
That is so interesting. It's like pieces of a puzzle also fitting in.
Yeah. I mean, a lot is communication, and a lot is like being compatible
Right.
around how you feel.
But basically, the definition of feeling intimacy does change from person to person when it comes to the vulnerabilities that they are trying to experience.
Also. But obviously, like, all of us think about love, or I should be able to share, when I'm scared, or when nobody wants to hear when the other person is angry. But it's also that, right?
Yeah.
The other person needs to be able to give you space for you to experience anger also in front of them, right? So it's not always like fun or like nice things and lovey-dovey. But again, like, intimacy is so complex. Like, you have different types now. It can be a moment of intellectual intimacy between us, because we share similar professions. So we talk about things and we connect over that, right? So different things. Yeah.
When you just mentioned that, a lot of couples who have stopped having sex or stopped being physically intimate with each other, why do you think that happens?
Um, I think when we live together, I think living together is the biggest problem. because you see the same person every single day. So you don't see them as a sexual creature anymore. You just see them as a flatmate or a partner because you're building something, you're building a home, you're having kids, right? So, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, but sex is such, right? So you need novelty, you need excitement. It's that drive that makes you want to discover that person. If that person is sitting in front of you all day, there's nothing to discover.
There's nothing to discover. Absolutely nothing to explore. Nothing new.
Yeah.
Novelty.
Yeah,
as you said.
Yeah, I mean, we know that dopamine has such a huge impact on, sex or the drive for looking for partners.
So
Or
why do people complain so much about long distance relationships? Or,
because that's it. It's the balance, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like that's too far away.
too far.
But of course, when long distance two people meet, then it's like, oh my God, it was the best thing. And I've been with this person for 5 years and we met only once a year and it was amazing every time we met, we were having sex. Then we got married. And now,
Marriage changes something, okay? There are a lot of couples who've even been living together before they got married, and they come to me saying that, you know what, it was better before we were married. Something that priest did during that wedding.
it's the roles, right? Like then you take a role of a wife or you take up a role of a husband. And it changes because there are lots of expectations that we have from these roles as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And society, families and stuff like that.
So how should these couples, of course, they ideally need to come to you and, talk about it, but you are living together now. This is life. This is reality. So how do they work on their intimacy? What is it? What is your process?
I usually tell couples to kind of start living slightly more individual lives. So, and I think like when you Google this stuff, like everybody tells you the same thing, like have your own time, be separate, have your space, take your time to discover yourself. Because the moment you discover things about yourself, like whether it's a hobby or new people that you meet, you will change.
Okay.
So your partner will meet you again and you'll be a different person, right? You'll be slightly different again, right? Um, and then, but create also moments where you schedule it. And I think that's also something that you will find on the internet, like schedule intimacy, schedule sex. So if you have managed to spend maybe 1 month, both of you have taken up like new hobbies, met new people, then once a month, and everybody can decide when. Is it once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, once every 3 months? We just go on a date and we plan.
Wonderful.
You know?
So it's a planned spontaneity.
You have to plan it.
Yeah.
You have to.
So that you're mentally prepared.
Yeah, and
you are in that zone.
Yeah, and you break it down. What is it that I want to feel when I go on a date with my husband? What is it that I want to feel when I go on a date with my wife? And then you say like, okay, this is my intention for this date.
What about sleeping in the same bed? A lot of couples, especially in India, do not sleep together after a child is born. Now you're saying that it's better to live individually and separately for a bit. But what about this? Because a lot of couples do complain about this, that I don't even get to sleep next to my partner and I miss the hugs and the cuddles and, the closeness that I used to feel with her or him before the kid arrived.
Yeah, I mean, with the child, obviously everything changes because there's another human being there. But again, like the solution to that is literally take time off, get a great babysitter or have like your mother-in-law, whoever it is, to, give you a break because you need it, right? There you have to build intimacy back because the mother has usually spent now whatever number of months and years taking care of a child. So first of all, the mother needs free time. That's like the most important. And then once they start coming back to themselves that, okay, I exist beyond a child, that's when I can actually engage with you as a partner. So I think like husbands or whatever fathers need to really actively actively help the mother to make her life easier, remove things that are actually bogging her down, because there are so many things that women have to deal with.
So there's more
anyways.
space.
Yeah.
Mind space.
Mind space, yes. Yeah, you need mind space. No, you need mind space for intimacy. Yeah.
So you're saying that lead individual lives, but also schedule and make sure that you're planning something and getting together
Yeah.
with that intention.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And when children are involved, share those responsibilities. Like,
Correct.
it's mandatory.
Absolutely. So, about a lot of couples do complain that this my partner is always in my space. Okay, where are you going? Who are you going out with? There is a lot of expectation that I am supposed to be happy only with my partner and I cannot be happy with anybody else. So, do you deal with such issues?
They're very common, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, you need to set some boundaries. I think a lot of people think that this being together all the time, and as you know, like you're codependent or enmeshed relationships
Right.
where you have to do everything together.
Right.
In the long run, is not healthy. It's There are some couples who are fine. They are aligned with that and they are happy. They are satisfied with that kind of relationship. But even if one is not, then it's going to have an impact on both. So there needs to be a multiple conversation, not one conversation, repetitive conversations around boundaries. How much time is okay for you, and how much time feels suffocating. Now, if you are constantly craving for your partner to be there and you think that they are the only one who will make you happy, then you might have a problem.
Yeah.
It might be a problem. It's not a good thing. It's not that, oh, my partner doesn't believe in love. It's the love that I feel. It's like, it's because I love them so much. Maybe not. Maybe that the love is an excuse for you to not address, what they call
Anxious
attachment styles.
attachments,
Right.
anxious, insecure.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of insecurity that does lead to codependent, and so it's important for people to know that there needs to be an individuality and novelty to have or maintain intimacy.
Yeah.
These are the two most important
Yes.
ingredients. Are there any other ingredients?
Communication. Yeah, I think communication, everybody needs to go through a training on how to communicate.
You're right. Because when without training people communicate, they usually also end up making it worse.
Yes. Because you have learned the way you communicate from your caretakers. And previous generation, 2 generations ago, the power dynamics were not the same. Besides power dynamics, obviously, I mean, women were not supposed to say anything, right? Men dictated most of the stuff, so a woman could not challenge that, and they lived in that sort of world. So now that women are not okay with things anymore, and they start becoming angry and frustrated because they're also working, they're also bringing money to the table, or they're taking care of 100,000 things, then communication becomes a problem. So I think everybody needs to learn how to communicate when both are equal. That's the struggle, I feel.
And that is more of a struggle in India, mostly, or you see this globally.
I think it's everywhere. I think overall in the world, people are still getting used to actual equality, which is not there anyways. Like, we cannot say that we are equal. Like, although we are working and we are earning and we are supposed to be independent in some form, but the equality is not there. So we're still going through a phase where we are not equal, and we are trying to be equal, and we are working really hard to grow and make a change in our lives. but the other side of the group doesn't feel the same. So how do we talk to each other when this is happening? So you need to be very, very aware of how you communicate with your partner.
And that is something that you help couples with, and
Yeah.
how to communicate.
Yeah, it takes time though.
It takes, yeah. Of course. So what are the challenges? I mean, what is the most interesting or difficult, toughest cases, or one of the most cases that you've handled, where it's been, you felt like you're banging your head on the wall?
I mean, it's the classic of when people just can't talk and they're constantly fighting about getting the story right. Who did what? I mean, it's a very basic problem that everybody faces. But when you cannot remove yourself from, oh, but I said this, you said that, I did this, I did that, then it's impossible to communicate about how you feel and actually like work on things instead of blaming each other. I think that blame game is quite strong and complex.
And it's very it's very
complex, very complex.
Yeah.
There's no solution. I cannot give you like step 1, step 2, step 3. No.
Yeah, you're right. The person has to remove themselves from the situation and just kind of.
I mean, it's a whole world, like emotional regulation. Who understands what it is?
Right.
Like a normal person is like, okay, I am this person did something, I'm getting angry, I'm gonna tell him that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong.
Right. So what according to you is a better way of communicating that can help couples especially get out of this communication pattern?
I mean, I in my practice I teach nonviolent communication, and but before that, I think it's important that people realize how they feel. And I know I talk about feelings a lot, but it's like
They're important.
feelings are. Otherwise, you don't have a relationship. Like even relationships at the workplace in a corporate office are based on feelings. So unless and until you're not aware of your feelings, how you're feeling, and why, and what that has triggered, you will not be able to even communicate. I can tell you, like, okay, use I statements, I can tell you that don't be judgmental, observe, talk about feelings instead of what has happened. But if you don't feel, you don't even know what the feeling is, then so you have to go before talking.
Very interesting. So very, very emotion driven, and then you convert it, automatically converts to action, as in words.
I mean,
thoughts and words.
you can only talk about your experience, and the person in front of you can only listen or give you the gift of listening to your experience. That person cannot solve your problems.
Right. So do you do this training also when you're doing matchmaking or these dating
No,
events?
it takes too many sessions. Like it's more of a
Too much work.
yeah. It's like you can't do it. You don't have a speed. Like everybody wants some like very quick solutions, but human beings
That's not possible.
it takes forever to change.
At what point do couples come to you with issues around infidelity or not wanting to be monogamous any longer?
As soon as they feel it, as soon as they start thinking that maybe I would like to be with somebody else, or I would like to try and have sex with somebody else. Most people don't talk to their partners about it because they're too scared.
Of course.
They're afraid. But as soon as you spot it, is the best time to come and speak to someone, if not your partner. But then it depends who you're with, because the partner might not be okay with that conversation. So,
Right. So let's say a couple. I know that you work with a lot of polycules as well, right? So for our audience, can you help understand what exactly does polycule mean?
So a polycule is a relationship of different kind with multiple people. So you have different structures of a polycule. You could have three people having a relationship. You could have four people having a relationship. You could have two people having a relationship and these two having relationships with other two or other three. The number is sort of irrelevant, but it's more than one basically. And usually when you talk about a polycule, you talk about actual relationships that are not purely sexual. In fact, they can be non-sexual at also. Like you could have a platonic relationship with someone, or you could have a kinky relationship with someone where you just play. But the important thing is it is understood that everybody knows about each other. So there is no hiding, there is no
Secrecy.
there is no secrecy, that everybody's aware that there are multiple people involved. There are some sort of agreements, some rules, or a decision that there are no rules in this polycule.
Got it. But everyone knows everyone, basically.
Not always.
Not always.
Not always. It can be also that your partner has seen somebody else, but you know that this person exists, but you don't know who they are. Or it could be like the person your partner is seeing you also. So it depends on what you're comfortable
How does that
with.
work in your experience? I mean, emotionally for the partner.
No, it's a mess. I'm not saying it's extremely challenging, and no matter how many reels and how many podcasts and books you read, it is the most challenging experience a human being can go through. Having multiple relationships and dealing with multiple emotions of people all the time.
Must be energy
It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Almost. Like not many people can do it. Everybody feels that, oh, it sounds so cool and it's fun. It is not this form of, if you are just someone who wants to have sexual experiences and it's casual and wants to have the fun, then you are not really polyamorous, or you are not in a polycule. You're a polysexual, or you are just practicing non-monogamy, which is very different. So most people want that. They want the fun. They don't want the package of emotions of.
So why does one get into that package?
I think most people get into it because they think it's cool.
Okay.
Some people get it because they've been extremely betrayed by monogamy. Like they've done okay, I got married or I got into a long-term relationship. It didn't work out. It didn't work out multiple times. And now let me try something else.
So they're basically exploring.
Yes.
And
a lot of people are exploring.
Yeah.
But successfully managing that, it's a lot of work.
It must be a lot of work. I mean, does ethical, consensual, non-monogamy between couples
Or individuals.
Or
depending on what kind of non-monogamy you practice. If you're practicing hierarchical, where there is a couple, fine. If you're practicing non-hierarchical or like relational anarchy, you see multiple people. Everybody's at the same level. Everybody is as important as everybody else.
So I'm sure a lot of people must be asking you what to do with the jealousy that comes in non-monogamous.
I just say good luck. Good luck with the jealousy. I mean, it's an interesting emotion, and if you are into like self-discovery and introspection, you will find out a lot of things about yourself, about your insecurities, about your boundaries, about your fears, how you deal with anger. Like it's a beautiful bomb that you are willing to just burst and see what happens. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but it will take time, and it will take a lot of introspection for you to realize what it actually is.
Because in the earlier generations, a marriage or whatever companionship was purely functional, rule based, and yes, there was emotion as well, but it was more about you know sharing responsibilities and you know forwarding the family genes, correct, furthering the genes. But modern relationships, of course, no longer need that function based relationship. So a lot of our relationships are more emotion based. So jealousy and possessiveness are up here pretty much. Um, like even when you think of non-monogamy, right? The whole purpose is companionship by the end of the day. That you are a couple, let's say, but and you can date other people, but you can't necessarily fall in love with other people. There is an underlying expectation. So how does that work?
Not for everyone. I mean, this is just one particular example that you made. That some people are like that, but it is quite common, especially in India, because everybody in India gets married.
Correct.
So once you're married, so everybody's married. So once you're married, that person somehow is more important than anybody else that you might meet. If you're just opening up the relationship to have sex, yes, this works. Like, we've decided, okay, it's just going to be purely physical. I'm not going to have emotions. What happens often is that women are somehow conditioned to actually have feelings. Most of us, not everyone, but have feelings when we are sexual. So then somebody falls in love, then how do you manage that? That's like one of the biggest challenges in this. I mean, women are always scared that men will fall in love.
Right.
Most of the time, right? Like that's the narrative that we have been fed. But actually, it's a woman that, because a woman wants emotional intimacy.
Correct.
Most of the time.
Correct.
I'm not saying that we are born like this, but definitely conditioning has made us that way. And yeah, so it's a great problem. Yeah. So I don't know. Like,
Yeah. No, I get it. So men usually, so when you go outside a couple dynamic, a dyadic relationship, so we are not only talking about poly, and we're talking about people who are exploring relationships outside a dyadic
yeah.
arrangement,
Yeah.
right? What is the, other than novelty, okay, what are the reasons people feel like exploring? What are the
So I think it depends on their life stage and what has happened to them. A lot of men in their 40s and 50s are going through like a sort of existential crisis. A lot of them have achieved the success that they wanted. They've achieved maybe it's money, maybe it's career, whatever it is. And then they're like, what next?
so they're more relaxed, stress free now?
No, they are stressed because what next? What is going to drive me next? What is exciting me here? Now I've done 1, 2, 3. I've gotten married also. Now I have kids also. Everything is like done. What do I do next?
There is a stagnation that
It's that purpose. And somehow men are somehow conditioned to believe that if I'm not saying men, actually that's pretty much for everyone. I'm canceling this, but you are conditioned to believe that a love story, a passionate story will bring back the excitement of life that you have lost. And what happens is they might have an affair, 1, 2, 3. I'm saying people who are,
right.
they might have affairs, or a lot of them go to sex workers because that's easier, right? And then after some time, they come back as like, oh, but actually, no, I'm not happy. And that's when the work starts. Okay, let's look at it. Okay.
So they are exploring themselves. in a way?
I think it's more like, I'm stressed. I'm just going to go and have a few drinks and not think about it. What is the actual problem? Like, is it the problem that I'm not enjoying my work? Is it that I'm working 24/7 and I don't have any fun time anymore? So what is life about? It's a very existential, fundamental crisis that people
What is my
have.
purpose?
Yeah.
What is the meaning?
Yeah. What is the meaning of all this?
What
And
about women?
so, I mean, this happens to women as well. But I feel that there's a lack of, a lot of women want to be heard because a woman will always find something else to do. Somehow we're just more capable of,
Doing a lot of things.
doing a lot of things, being curious about
Right.
things that we don't know. We don't get as bored as men do. And I know this statement is going to slap me on the face.
No, but you're right. You're right because our brain works in so many directions. Uh, so you're right. We don't really get bored very easily.
Yeah, because like for us, it's more like I want to feel loved. I want to feel desired. I want to, I want someone to listen to how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking for that sort of connection.
So for men, what I'm understanding is this meaning, purpose, existence, and also something to do, right?
Yeah.
For women, it's more about being heard, being just paid attention to emotionally.
Yeah. But that's why a lot of women have affairs that are not even affairs, they're online.
Agreed.
A lot of women have these like chat friends and then they do stuff and then they're like, oh, I am cheating. I'm like, but what are you doing? Have you even met this person? No. Like, okay.
It's very interesting, Aili. So, what do you tell these people who come with this guilt and shame that's associated with just wanting to even explore their desires?
It depends on the desire, obviously.
Right. I mean, okay. Let me just put it this way, because most of the couples or people who are going to watch this are also going to be in very clearly monogamous couple
Yep,
relationships,
yeah.
and they pretty much feel that like they're held captive in that marriage because so how most of us do live dual lives where the innermost desires are not easily expressed because they are not allowed to be expressed in the society, and the outer appearance is separate and different. So a lot of people do feel that I'm living a life which is just structured, stagnated, and normal, routine, monotony, right? But my inner desire and temptation is a lot of other things. And we will talk about, of course, BDSM and kinks and, a lot of other things that are there in my heart. So when people come for advice, that, I feel like I want to explore these parts of me because they are just so repressed. Then what would you say to someone who is in a relationship?
It's a very tough one because I think obviously literally like the easiest answer is like, oh, you talk to your partner.
It's not easy.
But it's not happening. Like no matter how much you try and explain a person, but listen, you just have to sit down at a dinner table somewhere else, not in your house, and say that, listen, I need to talk about this because this is very important to me. Like people who have fantasies, I mean, we'll go into kink and stuff like it could be foot fetishes, for example. It's
Right.
like the most common.
Most common.
And they're not able to practice this with their partners because they're too ashamed of it. Or the partner at some point has said, no, chi, no, like not this. Or like, for example, very classic oral sex. No, chi, no, I don't like it. And then they have figured that that is is the thing that they really want to try out and explore. if they had that conversation with their partners very clearly, like, listen, this is very important to me because it makes me feel this way, without telling them do it,
Right.
give it to me. You just talk about it and talk about how you feel, or what that activity or whatever fetish or whatever you want to experience, how it's going to make you feel, and what is it that need that you is not being met right now. And then the other person speaks up. And we go back to communication, right?
Right.
One person not being judgmental, you being able to be vulnerable, and then it takes multiple conversations where you might reach to an agreement, like, I'm okay, I don't want to do this, but maybe you can do this. Obviously, I mean, it depends on partners. If someone comes to me and says, okay, I just want to have sex with multiple people, which is very common.
Right.
It's very, I mean, I get it all the time.
Right. I'm sure.
And I'm like, okay, but what are the implications? Sure, you can live your hedonistic life, but are you aware of risks and implications? Will you be able to manage the guilt? Because you will feel guilty. Not everyone does, though. I have to say this.
I was
For
just going
some,
to ask you, does do
no,
every
no, but a lot people do. But again, like, the implications are many. It's not as easy as it might sound or you might hope to achieve. Like, it's not that everybody is out there, like, you're in this marriage, and once you step out of the marriage, there's this like wild life that is
Right.
expecting you. There are normal people like you who are experiencing the same things. So it's not that it's like, I think a lot of this imagination of what it can be outside is based on porn, to be honest. You know, porn has this like very it builds these kind of crazy expectations of the world outside, that it's this wild wild west. Sure, there are people doing all sorts of things, but reality is a little different, and
It
you
is
have to,
different.
like, you have to decide what your priorities are. The best way to experience all of this is your fantasies. Like, you just sit and fantasize and masturbate and write about your fantasies, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, if you see that the implications are too many, like, if
Then
you,
fantasy is your savior.
yeah, then I mean, that's why we have wet dreams at night, because we
Right.
can fantasize about whatever we want and just like find release. Obviously, if you can talk to your partner about it, then great, excellent, because at some point, if you are in a, I don't want to call it healthy, I want to call it successful relationship, you should be able to talk about it, and you should be able to come
So
midway somewhere.
absolutely, because but you know, most partners, so today of course I'm sure a lot of partners might even think about listening and hearing your partner out, that you know what, I have these desires and temptations, and you know what do we do about it? But is there something they can really do about it together, or again, you know, it's okay to just fantasize and stay put?
Uh, yeah, again, like, it's a what you call in the kinky world negotiation, right? Um, what are you okay doing? How far can you go? Where are your hard limits?
Right.
So you discuss hard limits. Now, if I am completely grossed out by oral sex, maybe not.
Right.
Right? So there is a gut feeling about a certain activity that you will have, that, okay, that's an absolute no. But there might be things halfway that will be okay for you, you know?
Got it. So basically, you negotiate, you
You,
set boundaries, you
yes,
set rules.
yeah.
What about BDSM? Because so bondage, dominance, sadism, masochism. Because okay, fine, these are still, you know, they still fall in the normal sex intimacy realm. But I think everyone must have watched 50 Shades of Grey or read 50 Shades of Grey. Then there's this, you know, character in Desperate Housewives whose husband is actually seeing a dom. He wants to be a submissive. How can couples communicate that? or is the process same? Negotiate.
Yeah, I think it's same in the sense like a lot of times men know much earlier whether they are kinky or not.
Not women.
I think men are more connected to their erotic minds and their sexual needs and their physical needs than women because of socialization.
Got it.
I'm just talking about like majority regular stuff.
Right.
So if your partner has not reached there, because if I'm born as a woman, I most of the times like a normal regular Indian parent will be like, okay, don't date,
Right. Right.
you know, sex only later, or like if they talk about sex, I will be watching Bollywood movies. Very few people will go on porn or like go to watch like alternative intimacy, what I call alternative intimacy.
Interesting.
Right? Yes, you might come across some movie where it shows that, okay, now this person is feeling something to the other person, the person is bending down, there is some spanking happening. But most of us are brought up on romantic stories. Now, I don't know all of this.
Right.
Where do I see it? Now, if your partner knows what they want, it's not about like, oh, I want to, I want to be spanked, or I want okay. Start with sensations. Do you like this sensation?
Okay.
Okay. Some people like different sensations, right? Pinching, stroking, scratching. Start very basic. Talk about sensations first,
Got it.
right? Like, do you like it when I hold your hands tight? How does it feel? Again, back to feelings. That activity makes you feel a certain way. Do I want to feel submissive? Why do I want to feel submissive? Is it because I don't want to think about things, and I want someone to think for me, express it?
I want to follow.
Yeah, I want to follow, or I want to feel again powerful.
Right. Right.
I want to feel cruel. I want you to cry. So that's when you're getting into BDSM. It's not just about like whips and chains and all of that. It's like sensations and how you want to feel that are within some form of power dynamic, or sensation on different body parts that it's different from what we understand as normal.
Got it.
So everyone is a little kinky, to be honest.
I'm sure.
Right?
Right.
So everybody takes up a role of slightly dominant, submissive. Or some people, what is the role that they both are doing stuff together? Maybe it could be animalistic. Even that is part of BDSM.
Right.
Like you throwing someone on the wall and acting like a cat, that's also BDSM.
When when I read about your deep aftercare, BDSM aftercare, what are the experiences that people come with that they need aftercare? I mean, not explicitly. You don't have to share any details, but what are the most challenging experiences? What goes wrong sometimes?
I think a lot. It's normal if things go wrong.
Okay.
I think aftercare is something that we need to introduce in just regular conversations around sex, which means like after you've been together in whatever form, give each other feedback and care after it, because you've entered a zone of, again, it's a it's a it's a space where you forget what is time, what time it is, how long you spend there. So you've gone into a part of the brain that has removed you from time and space. Like you're painting, or when you get into a zone of any activity, playing music, cooking, etc., etc., so you lose sense of time and space. So it's an activity that you should do always to see how you feel, like to come back to normal life. Like I'm in a room with my partner. What is it that they need after they've come back from this experience?
So feedback, which is so interesting because a lot of people don't talk about it after. Right.
So in kink, usually you talk about aftercare before you start anything. Like, what is the kind of aftercare that you want? Some people might say, no, I don't want anything. I just want to have a cigarette and leave the house. And that is the biggest complaint of, like people who are dating. That, okay, we just did something and then you've walked off. Like, how can you do this to me? How can you do this to me? But point is that some people are, they need it.
Yeah.
So if that person tells you before, you're prepared that you know that, and the person says like, listen, there's nothing wrong, but you know, I just feel like that after it's because I need to come back to my body by having a cigarette or eating a snack or maybe I just want to fall asleep.
Right.
So what happens in deep aftercare is often when people have not had that conversation, you know, and there is no aftercare or there's not being discussed and therefore it doesn't match. So people feel a sense of loss. Or maybe they've had an experience during play that has taken them back to some other emotion. It could have been sexual trauma. It could have been like any kind of abuse. And the person who they were playing with could not help them come back to their bodies. Like come back to today, you know, present. And sometimes like of course it's also like when you are in dynamics like sadomasochism.
Right.
There is, you know, people think that the submissive needs care, but sometimes the sadist or the dominant needs care because sometimes they're very mean to the person that they're with. So they start feeling a bit, how can I be so cruel?
Yeah.
How can I harm someone like that? Right? Although we've agreed to it, but you question like, how can I be this person,
right.
this monster? Why am I like this? So some people come for that as well.
Wow.
So different experiences.
So interesting.
Yeah.
As we are still on the topic of, you know, how to communicate certain things about your desires to your partner, I want to talk about, you know, sexual orientation and sexual identity, where people sometimes realize years later into the marriage or the relationship that they have a different sexual identity, that they no longer identify with, you know, what they've been socially conditioned to present. So how does that conversation look like between somebody who's either, you know, the most common complaint that I get is, you know, my partner's telling me that he or she is asexual. Or, you know, recently I've started getting attracted to members of the same sex, and I don't know if I'm attracted to my partner, you know, and there's panic, you know, that what the hell is happening with me. So how does that conversation look like between partners?
I mean, it's thankfully now it's they've made it legal. So like when you 10 years back, you would ask someone like, okay, what do you like? What if you're gay? Then what? And it would be a disaster. But now it's like, because everybody's sort of like, okay, there are people who are like that. It's legal. It's kind of okay. So it depends on how far, see, shame or feeling abnormal can be one conversation or it can be like years of therapy. Depending on how deep it is. If the conditioning from family or whatever the environment has been so strong that like if you are like gay, there's something wrong with you, then you will sit there for a while, you know, addressing what is normal, what is not normal, what is genuine, what is, you know. So it's kind of, there is no one conversation, I feel. Like it is very, it depends on the person. Like if someone says, like I get a lot of clients who are into transgender, right? Transgender women mostly. And I'm like, okay, so fine, you are attracted to someone who has a feminine gender expression,
Right.
but they have male genitals. So okay, fine, because most of them think that they're gay or like they're going towards that direction, and this is the sort of in between that is acceptable for them. But I'm like, okay, now see it as a spectrum. Like, see feminine, masculine as a spectrum, and then see genitals as a spectrum. Like, ultimately, we have the same genitals. Like, a penis is, it's just like a clitoris, right? It's like, so it's just that at some point it became bigger. So
Right.
that part of your body gives you pleasure. Now, what size it is, where it is, inside, outside, doesn't really
Doesn't
matter. So think about, okay, now do you prefer this sensation? Again, I go back to the sensation. You prefer this visual, you prefer touching this body part, and I just break it down. And sometimes when there is not so much conditioning and people are open to these kind of conversations, then it's literally one conversation.
Wonderful. Sounds so easy.
But then it depends, right? So then I have people that are married and there's no way they're going to tell their, partners that, oh,
But what you described is such a complex, because, you're just basically drawing this x-axis and y-axis where there's masculine, feminine, female, male genitals. And there are over, I think, 9, 10 different sexual orientations. Tell me, at what stage, because I also read that you help people with understanding their sexual identity as well, right? At what point do they come to you after what all that they've tried to just understand and explore who they really are?
they don't. They don't. No. I think once they've crossed the sort of, okay, I've done this, now I'm exploring. Once they are in the world exploring, then unless they're at an initial phase where they're still questioning. But if they've gone out and they've tried XYZ and then they've realized, like, oh, everything is fine for me, then they don't come back. So it's just that initial part of their journey that where they are questioning their understanding of sexuality.
How easy or difficult is that journey between understanding and exploring, especially in the Indian context? What has been your observation?
I think across the years, as I said, I think across the years, I think people are a bit more open depending on their age. Like, I find that young people are much more open to explore straight away because there is less societal shame around it.
Correct.
So it is literally that how much are you carrying? Like, if you grew up in a very sort of liberal household and environment, like usually if you work in creative arts or media and things like that, so you're a bit more open about things. So for those people, sometimes it's much easier
Right.
than someone who's brought up in a very conservative and traditional household. So again, it's the conversations are multiple if you are older and if you come from a conservative background. If you are younger, even if you are from a conservative background, but because you're exposed to people around you, we need to be exposed to people that question things like us,
Right.
because one-on-one conversation is not enough. And that's why there is a community, there is a queer community, or there is a kinky community. Because you need to share your experience with somebody else who's experiencing that. There's no matter how much I'll talk to you about it, it's not enough. You need to meet 1, 2, 3, 4 people. We are social beings, right? So we need to meet people who are like us for us to realize who we are.
Can a person have multiple orientations?
The beauty of all of this is the non-binary. In all of this, the non-binary person just throws all of this into the bin and just exists. So I think, non-binaries are the best. I feel okay. Because you don't have to think about, like, am I gay, am I lesbian, am I pansexual? Like, there is no binary. There is no
Correct.
female, male. So whoever, it's like whatever you are presenting, are you femme presenting or are you mask presenting, it doesn't matter what you have down there. Right.
So, just for the sake of our audience, when you say feminine present,
You're representing feminine qualities. Now, even that's a construct. Now, if I am wearing lipstick and I have long hair, I look feminine.
Right.
I look like a woman, but I might not feel like
Like
a woman, right? I might feel non-binary, which is I don't feel like a woman, I don't feel like a man. I'm neutral,
right.
right? Now, a femme-presenting person could be gay,
Right.
could be lesbian. So you don't know what their sexual orientation is, and you don't know what they have down there.
Right.
They're just presenting a quality or like certain qualities that we understand or we have constructed as feminine. So the point is that the world is very fluid,
It is. It is. And
and you need to talk and have a conversation.
yes,
That's like
absolutely.
the best.
Absolutely. I think sexuality, sexual orientation, sexual identity, gender identification is a different topic for an entire episode by itself. But I think this does shed a lot of light on the spreading awareness about this as well, and just talking more about.
Yeah. I think, I mean, if you stick to like, what is it that I like about this? Like, I might, you know, like or dislike. It's become a child, when you discover things. Like, even sexually, what is the sensation? What is the word that I like hearing?
Right.
What is it? What is the type of touch that I want? What they just become like a child, because ultimately, like, intimacy or physical intimacy, it is adults playing. We are not children anymore, unfortunately. Kids play with other things and we play with each other.
Right.
So let's make it like an exploratory exercise or something fun and pleasant.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Aili. Is there any words of wisdom you want to offer our audience around intimacy?
I think everybody has their own wisdom, and they should like understand themselves always more than trying to change themselves. So I think that's looking within always, with the help of others, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aili. I think this was really interesting. Very different, I'm sure, for a lot of people who are watching this. So great. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.